What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by the best in the biz, Tim Legler. Legs, who's down in Dallas, caught both Golden State and Dallas, new-look teams. We're going to talk about them later. How you doing today, Legs?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a long road trip for me, man. My trip changed when the trade went down and we decided we were going to try to get Luka's first game. So I had to spend 3 days in LA when I was supposed to go home. So I've been on the road a week. So right after this, I finally head to the airport to go home and see my family again.
I wonder if people can tell from our show, they know your home location and what it looks like. And if you go through all of our shows for, the last 7, you're in a hotel room. So I don't know if people pick up on this stuff, but it is true, man. You've been a road warrior.
No, yeah, no doubt, man. My wife is very anxious to get me back, as you can imagine, with a 3-year-old at home. She's going to hand him to me as soon as I walk in the door. I'm certain of it.
Happy Valentine's Day there.
Exactly.
We got a great show for you. Everybody in the NBA played last night, so we're going to give some quick hitters on a lot of the key games that happened. We're going to go deep on the Warriors and Mavs because, Legs was in Dallas. He got to, up close and personal to all that's going on there with the Mavericks, but also the Warriors are interesting as well. And then our weekend slate is, of course, the All-Star game. So we'll give some quick hitters and predictions on who we think is going to win the various competitions. But we got a lot to get to in a little bit of time. So I'm going to start with some layup lines. Let's warm up with some layup lines. First one for you. You texted me this last night. The Pistons get the win. They've gone 18-9, heading into the All-Star break since December 20th. They beat the Bulls 128-110. Cade Cunningham remains a monster. He had a crazy, I don't know if you saw this, goes up right-handed, avoids the block, dunks it left-handed in transition. It was an incredible play. 29 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. The Pistons playing not just surprise upstart team. They're playing like a good team. 7th best record since December 20th.
Yeah, and I think that last part is the point that I want to make about them is, look, a lot of teams can surprise you sometimes, and they can have nice little spurts, and then sometimes they sort of not come back to earth where they are what they were last year. Clearly, they're a lot better than that. They're a legitimately good team now. But this is more than that, man. This is going deeper into the season, and they're gaining more and more confidence as we go on. They show up now, and they have no fear. It's fun. It's a bunch of young guys that have completely shed in less than a full season what many people consider the joke of the NBA. And I just think it's a great story. It's one of the best stories in the league this year, and it continues to grow and get stronger as they continue to get north of the 500 line. That's the part that's most impressive. You think, what's the upside? Maybe they win 35, 36 games, and that's a great year. That's an incredible turnaround. They're going to be better than that. This team's probably going to finish above 500, maybe a handful of games above 500. Maybe they go 44-38 or something. It's nuts, man, what's going on in Detroit. So I think that's just a great story.
Cade Cunningham, man, he's just getting better and better too. It's fun when you see a player kind of level up the confidence where now he's just a dude. He's one of the guys. He's a guy that can carry your team. And they have a bunch of other guys on that roster. Oscar Thompson, who 19 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists last night. Jalen Duren, who's one of the best rebounders. And I don't know if you know this, Malik Beasley, I think, set the record for most threes in Detroit Pistons history. It's only February.
Yeah, really? I did not know that. That's incredible. Wow. Well, you think about the Pistons, they're really good teams, right? Obviously that 3-point shot wasn't nearly as prevalent back with the bad boys teams, but even going into the team with Chauncey Billups or Rip Hamilton and those guys, that wasn't a big part of their game. Rip Hamilton was coming off down screens, 20-foot jump shooter. He was not a deep 3-point shooter. Chauncey Billups was, later in his career, but so that makes sense. And then since then, it's been, they haven't had very many good teams, so you wouldn't think anybody would be at that list. But that is pretty incredible. With this many games to play, he's already broken that.
Shout out to the Bulls for only losing by 18, by the way. A huge improvement from their previous game. We beat a dead horse here with this one, but Paul George scored just 2 points last night. The Sixers lose their 5th straight. They were obviously shorthanded with out Joel Embiid, without Tyrese Maxey. So you need Paul George to carry you. He gives you 2 points on 1 of 7 shooting. They lose to the Nets.
Is this rock bottom? I think it's rock bottom. When you okay, so they played the night before at home. They lose to Toronto. Pretty uninspiring effort in that game. Maxey, finally cooled off because he had been on an incredible heater. He cools off for the Toronto game. I guess just because it was a back-to-back, that's why Embiid didn't play. I'm not sure about Maxey. But then you hand it off to Paul George and go, hey, man, aren't you like an all-star caliber player? Can you carry us for a night? And he gives you 2 points. So I think this is officially rock bottom for the Sixers.
The Knicks beat the Hawks last night, 149-148 in overtime. When these two teams get together, Legs, it just seems like they're always good games. Karl-Anthony Towns goes for 44. Trae Young goes for 38 points, 19 assists, but the Knicks get the win going into the break. They're 36-18.
And one of the things that stood out to me about that game, I believe there were 8 guys with 20 points. There was two different guys had 30 and one guy had 40 plus. So there was a lot of actually monster nights last night, a lot of high-level production individually across the league. I watched one with Kyrie Irving at 42 in my game. Obviously, Jamal Murray had 55. A lot of guys put up big numbers. Every team in the league played last night, by the way.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing I want to know. This was the last game for most teams. They probably packed their bags for vacation. I feel like this, if we went through the history and just looked at the week right before the All-Star break, I'll bet you there's a lot of big-time performances, and I just wonder if it's because you got your vacation bag packed, your mind's already halfway out the door, defense probably a little optional on the last game before the break.
I'm pretty sure about that. I'm sure if you went through guys' luggage in their lockers, you'd find some beach towels and sunscreen and like things like that, right? Because they're ready to get out, man. And it's the league has turned it into a legitimate break now, and I think it's good. I mean, I think it's appropriate. I think guys like this time off. It used to be like literally just like a long weekend, and you were right back at it. Now they give you extra time. I think it's good. Guys can recharge, but there's no doubt, man, this last one leading into that, you're going to get some what you got last night.
Do you remember, this was probably 20 years ago, Rasheed Wallace was a late ad. Like there was a late scratch in the All-Star game and Rasheed Wallace had to be the replacement. And he was talking about how he was like already out the door to the airport when he gets the call that he has to go to All-Star. And he protested the game. He went out there and shot offhanded threes for the 3 minutes he played as if like, I don't want to be here. Take me out of this thing.
Yeah, look, I that's a good question, man. I mean, guys obviously want to be honored by it, but if you really polled a lot of them, these are the guys that carry the heavy burden every night. It's a lot on their shoulders, man. So, getting that, because, look, it's All-Star weekend. They're not taxing themselves. I get it, but there are a lot of demands on their time that weekend. And the bottom line is you're not somewhere, like I said, on a beach or on one of your yachts or whatever, relaxing and just getting ready to come back and have that sprint to the playoffs, because then that's another 2-month grind, particularly for those guys, what they're asked to do every night in the playoffs. So, that's a good question, man. They like the honor of it, but I think they probably would prefer to have the rest.
And I imagine there's some guys that enjoy all of the, the partying and all the different stuff. I imagine there's some guys that like that and some guys that could do away with it. I know Jokic every year is like, man, why do I keep getting voted to this thing?
The young guys, I think, are probably more into it if you're a younger guy, like getting in there for the first time, or even the first few times you get in and you're still like in your 20s. But there's no doubt, man, when you've been there, 6, 7, 8, 10 times, I think those guys would much rather just have the time with their family and time to just chill, because the party stuff, it gets old after a number of times that you do it.
Yeah. The Wolves lost to the Bucks last night. Wouldn't have been so bad at home. Wouldn't have been so bad, but no Giannis, no Dame. This is limping into the playoffs, man. 30-25 for Minnesota, 29-24 for Milwaukee, but Minnesota losing to that team, that shorthanded. Kyle Kuzma goes for 19 points, 13 rebounds. That's who they lost to.
Man, and this is like follows up on the Bucks without Giannis beat the Sixers, and we just trashed the Sixers, but the Sixers actually played okay in that game, that national TV game on Sunday, and so Milwaukee getting some stuff done without their top guys. Interesting.
Yeah, and Anthony Edwards 4 of 17 from 3. Rough night for him. Let's go on to the Thunder outscored the Heat. This was the craziest game of last night. The Heat were up 21 points until the Thunder, the best fourth quarter team, best defense in the NBA, started the fourth quarter on a 24-0 run. 6 minutes, the Heat did not score. 6 minutes in the game. Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein are now a plus 25 in their 31 minutes together. And Oklahoma City, number 1 defense in the NBA by 4 points. They're not just a little bit better than everyone defensively. They're significantly better than everyone defensively.
They're incredible, man. And I saw that, a week ago or so when they played Phoenix. Phoenix was up 2 at the half. And, I'm expecting, okay, we're going to get a better defensive effort out of OKC, but they absolutely came out of that locker room and suffocated them. Like, their ability to just completely make it impossible for you to do anything offensively, to get clean looks for stretches, is incredible. And they convert any turnover into points. Like, nobody's better in the league at doing that. So if you can force a turnover, even better for them, because they just cash in at a higher rate than anybody else. Yeah, their defensive numbers are pretty incredible. I think I saw that game. I was looking at the numbers, and the gap between them and the number 2 team in defensive rating, that gap was the same as the gap from the second place defensive rated team to the 11th.
Man.
So in other words, these numbers are very close. A lot of teams are bunched together, but you got to rank them in some kind of way. But that's the level to which they have kind of lapped the field in what they do defensively.
And so few minutes so far with Chet and Hartenstein on the court, that's going to be a part of what they do after the All-Star break. You put that together, and the defensive numbers there have been great. Offensive numbers have been pretty decent as well, but you think the offensive part will be tough. The defensive part, though, I just think they have a whole other level they can get to. And I used to do a show with George Karl, Hall of Fame coach, and he said something that always stuck with me, which was, there's nothing scarier in a playoff series than when you can't score. He's like, team scoring on you, whatever, you feel like you can do this or that. But when you can't score on a team, it intimidates you. And that's why, Oklahoma City's numbers, it reminds me of Boston last year, where they were raced to 62 wins. They're killing everybody. And you're like, yeah, but I think there's a weakness here or there. At some point, the numbers are what the numbers are. And Oklahoma City's numbers, they're not close. They're blowing everybody out. Every blue moon, they get a close game. But at some point, we have to look at it. We're at the All-Star break. They're a juggernaut. And they're still getting their team together. Are we fooling ourselves with the numbers that we're seeing from Oklahoma City?
I don't think so. So what you have to ask yourself is, it's so impressive. We talk about it so much. And right now, it's at a different level. Like, prior to last night, their 6 previous wins, they were averaging 132 points a game. And the average margin of victory was, north of 20 for a 6-game stretch. And so it's not even competitive some nights when they play their best. It's crazy. And to think there's still something else there they haven't really explored, which is the damage that Hartenstein and Chet can do together for like a long extended period of time. And maybe we won't get that. I think some of that's going to depend on who they're playing and matching up and things like that, because their smaller lineup with those athletic wings defensively, that might ultimately be their best team defensively against certain teams. So I don't know how much they're going to play those two guys together, like what the maximum amount of minutes they'll play in a game together this year in regular season or postseason. But the fact that that's still out there for something for them to tinker with, and they've already been this good, man, it's you're not going to sit here and say it's a wrap. OKC's winning the whole thing, but it is. Sometimes you watch them and go, how are you supposed to score enough in a 7-game series, to beat them 4 times? It's hard to imagine.
Phil Jackson had the, get to 40 wins before 20 losses rule. That's how you're a contender. They might get to 50 wins before they get to 10 losses. I think that means you're a juggernaut if you get to that number. Jamal Murray last night goes for 55 points. Really impressive from 3. He started really hot from 3. It was the Trailblazers. They're playing them the second time. Trailblazers had been good. They'd won 10 of 12 before coming to Denver for these 2 games. Denver just smacked the heck out of them both times. Hard to tell if that's a good win for 2 good wins for Denver or not, just given what Portland's overall record is. But Jamal Murray's heating up. He had a 45-point game a month ago. He's had a handful of 30-point games in between then, and now 55, his career high, and I believe the 3rd highest single-game output in Denver Nuggets history. Denver has had this stretch of like 15 easy games or so. It's been a lot, and they've been winning them. So it's hard to know. Like, Denver's about to get a real test. But the big bellwether for Denver is Jamal Murray at that level where he gets to in the playoffs. And right now, it looks like he's starting to round into that form. 55-piece last night.
Single biggest barometer for the Denver Nuggets is Jamal Murray and how he looks offensively, how aggressive, how smooth, how healthy. He's all of those things right now. I didn't see any of the game last night. Obviously, I was calling a game myself, so I didn't get to see any of that game. But I was scrolling through the box scores when I got back to the room last night, and I was like blown away by what I was seeing. He had the best night of all. So yeah, it's a good. Even the night I saw them and they didn't play particularly well, the game that I called, they didn't play particularly well in that game. He looked really good. I mean, and I noticed it even in warmups. I'm like, man, he's really moving well, and obviously feeling really good. So that's great sign for Denver, man, because that's a whole nother level of weapon for them if he's playing at this level.
8-game winning streak for Denver going into the All-Star break. They seem to do this every year where they start to round into form and have a really good closing stretch. I'm curious. They're going to get tested after the All-Star break. I think they're one of the most interesting teams because I could see this test going either way. If they pass it, I think we're going to say, okay, Denver's back to that 2023 form where they should be in that top tier. If they lose some of those, maybe we think they are what they've been for most of the year. The Jazz beat the Lakers last night. Luka Doncic's debut. You were there for it. They get the win. Vibes are great. You got the rematch against the Utah Jazz, the lowly Utah Jazz, and you kind of get blown out in this one. There was no Dorian Finney-Smith, no Gabe Vincent. I know we talked about the small ball option being a big part of their identity. They weren't able to go to that the same way, but to lose to the Utah Jazz legs right after your debut, that seems a little weird.
Yeah, it does, especially when, Utah, the way they looked in that game, Luka's debut game. I mean, that just was a team, and they're in a weird mode of they're not trying to win games. So they got to play their vets X amount of minutes to let those guys get touches and shots and numbers because, you got to treat the vets that way. But they're basically in tank mode, rebuild mode, acquiring draft assets and trying to figure out who they want to keep going forward. And I wasn't particularly impressed with their younger guys in that game. So you're going, man, what are they really? And then you turn right back around 2 days later and they beat the Lakers going away. So, and again, I didn't see it, so I can't really give in-depth analysis on what exactly happened. Obviously, Luka didn't have a great night, and I don't think he played in the fourth quarter. They've got him on a minutes restriction, but JJ Redick said that was going to be around 30, which was kind of funny when he told us that, because I'm like, that's not really a minutes restriction. 30, there's a lot of starters that play 30 minutes every night. So, yeah, I thought, 24 was probably the number. He played 23, I think, last night. And he did play the fourth, but it wasn't like that game was like 25, I think, at one point in the third. It was down to 16 early fourth quarter. That's nothing in the NBA anymore, especially against a weaker team. But he never went back in the game, I don't believe. So they'd seen enough, or they didn't think they were going to get that win, or whatever it was. And he said after the game, he had an interview, and I heard his voice. I didn't see him, but he sounded just fried. And he's talked about being fried mentally, and I get it. I really do. His head is still spinning. His entire world was turned upside down from probably what he thought the rest of his career was going to look like. And so he's still processing that. And so you got to give him a little bit of grace here early. He's not going to be at his best here in the foreseeable future. Probably it's going to take him maybe another 5, 7, 10 games. That's when you'll start to be able to judge the Lakers this year, and then obviously the bigger pictures down the road. But for this year and next, probably with LeBron, you can't make those determinations yet.
Yeah. Dalton Connect, by the way, rejoins the team. He goes for 10 points on 3 of 7 shooting. All of those were 3-pointers. So, we wondered about that, but he goes out there, plays a limited role, and makes a couple shots. Larry Markkinen went for 32.
Well, it's real quick on that. It's kind of wild, too. You think about what he's gone through. So he gets traded, didn't see that coming at all, was loving playing in L.A., goes there. They rescind it, so they ship both of those guys back. Connect comes back, sits for a game. He's in street clothes, looked very kind of mopey, it's sad. And then the next game he plays, but you know what? Who knows how this plays out? I mean, what if somehow Charlotte wins this and they force the trade to happen again? And now he's going back to Charlotte. But in the meantime, hey, he got a game in.
Yeah. And then our last one here, the Clippers beat the Grizzlies. No Ja Morant in this one, but 128-114 going into the break. The reason I find this one so interesting is these two teams might match up. This could very well be a 6-3 matchup in the first round. And they got the comfortable win. Again, no Ja Morant, though.
Yeah, right. That's listen, the Western Conference, I can't wait to come out of the break, and we're going to sort some things out because of some of these changes with these teams, and we're going to start to see who's who and who's going to be able to ring that bell against Oklahoma City, be the last team looking them in the eye. I don't know right now who it's going to be. It could be Denver.
All right, let's take our first break. On the other side, Legs was down in Dallas last night to get a firsthand look at this new look Mavs, the Mavs fan base, as well as the Golden State Warriors. So we'll get to that on the other side. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks with the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join FanDuel. Now, FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, you just visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA to join today. That's FanDuel.com/ALLNBA for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, and 18 plus at present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Also want to tell you guys about Lucy Nicotine, 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. Lucy Breakers are nicotine pouches with an extra surprise. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. You can set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door. And they've got all these great flavors that you can choose from. Mango, cinnamon, pomegranate, mint, wintergreen, citrus, apple ice, apple cider, espresso, berry citrus, or cherry ice. You can go for 4 milligrams, 8 milligrams, or even 12 milligrams, which seems wild to me. So let us know what your favorite flavor is. Let's level your nicotine routine up with Lucy. Go to lucy.com/allnba and use the promo code ALLNBA. That's ALLNBA to get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Again, that's lucy.co and use the code ALLNBA to get 20% off. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
All right, so I was just going to kind of go over what I was able to take in last night, sitting courtside for Mavericks and Golden State. And obviously both of these teams very interesting because of significant acquisitions. So let's start with the team that won it and the Dallas Mavericks, the home team. And the first thing I want to talk about is just the vibe around the organization and around the building, because we didn't know what to expect. We saw a lot of stuff going on early with people being ejected from the arena. We heard about Nico Harrison showing up at an SMU game and the chants breaking out. So I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know how hostile this would be. I do think that they have had a mandate now internally to squash all of that inside the arena, because there wasn't a lot of it. There was some people with signs, some people had some clothing on, and they immediately asked them to put the signs away or cover up the clothing, and people complied. I didn't see anybody or hear about anybody getting ejected from the arena. So it just from the beginning, there was a lot of electricity in there. And I think part of that, let's be fair, is the Steph Curry factor. Steph Curry's in town. You don't know how many more times as a fan in that area you're going to see Steph Curry. So that probably has something to do with it, because the crowd had some juice well before the game started, and it wasn't negative at all. Now, the other thing that helps in that regard, when your team gets off to a great start, which Dallas did, they jump immediately, get a lead. If they go down, 16-4 to start the game, I don't know what we would have heard or what the reaction would have been, but they didn't. They was the opposite. They played incredibly well out of the gate, and that sort of got everybody in a good mood, got behind their team. So just the overall vibe was not like the funeral-like atmosphere that I expected to see walking in there based on what I had seen and heard about over the last few days. So they were positive. They're ready to support their team. It looks like, some of these people are never going to get over the fact that Luka Doncic isn't on their team anymore. That's going to be generational. There are going to be people, especially kids, teenagers, that was their favorite player, that will be their favorite player when they're 40. That's just the way it is. You're always going to have that. But overall positivity about the team and their performance last night. So that's first. Next, Kyrie Irving, reminded people that the cupboard isn't bare. I know you traded Luka, but they still have Kyrie, who, is a spectacular talent, and some nights is the show, and he was the show last night. And he had not been shooting the ball particularly well from the three coming in. I think he was 7 for 28, something like that, from the three over his last X amount of games. And then he just absolutely catches fire from the three, hits three in a row in a very short period of time at one point in the third quarter. And so he was the show. Anthony Davis didn't play, obviously, but it reminds people, hey, look, we do have a pretty ridiculous tandem with a guard and a big man when Anthony Davis comes back and gets healthy. He didn't play last night. They had no bigs last night. In fact, there were long stretches in this game where the biggest guy on the court was 6'7". Both teams went super small. Quentin Post for Golden State, we thought he was going to get some run. He started the game. He didn't start the second half, and you didn't see him. And the reason was because Steve Kerr thought they were having a very difficult time with a big on the court, executing the switches and the things on Clay, who got hot early, and then on Kyrie later. So they just went basically small the entire second half. And for the most part, that's what Dallas did to combat that. Dallas, the other thing about the game, too, besides Kyrie, Max Christie was great. Max Christie, again, showing Mavericks fans, hey, it wasn't just about AD and Luka. Like, Max Christie's a player, and that's why JJ Redick was having a really difficult time parting with him. I mean, I think that if they had really held out to the last second, I think the Mavericks probably could have gotten Austin Reeves. Like, you put Luka Doncic on the table, you ask for the world, and then you wait until the last second to see if somebody's going to cave. It looks like it never even got that far. Or maybe for the Lakers, that was non-negotiable. I don't know. And then at the end, maybe you go, okay, well then how about, you go Max Christie if you're Dallas. But they got him. He can play. I think he's going to be a significant player for them this year and going forward. So, Adam, from the Mavericks standpoint, a great night. Kyrie was spectacular. They get a win. They needed to get a win at home with the negativity going into the game. And I think everybody had a good night. They were entertained. They got a win, and people left happy. I didn't see a whole lot of the other nonsense we've been hearing about over the last couple of days.
Well, it kind of reminds you of that first game where the you could tell there was like anxiety in the building, and Anthony Davis comes out right away and gives a performance. It's like everybody turns, like, all right, it's excitement. We're excitement tonight. This game brought a lot of excitement too. Kyrie Irving has been the centerpiece of a handful of bad teams. Not necessarily any fault of his own. He's been on some, the early Cavs team was not very good. A couple other places. I'm so curious about him as the lead man now on a team that has good role players, and obviously a second star in Anthony Davis, where he's the main guy. And last night, 42 points is incredible, 15 to 25 shooting, efficient. 0 assists to me is kind of strange. I mean, it was just the personality of the game, but what do you make of that? 42 and 0.
It was funny. He did a post-game talk back with Scott Van Pelt. He did it right before I did mine. So I was sitting there listening to him, waiting to talk to Scott myself. And that's the first thing he did was apologize for not having any assists. And it was funny. Scott made a joke about it. I think when you go 15 for 25 and go for 42 and carry the offense like that, I think you're good without getting the assist. But look, I think it shows you, guys like that, even like you're a little self-conscious about that. Look, he did what was required of him in this game. And I will say this, he would have had some assists, but a good portion of the second half, the Golden State Warriors were running people at him. If he got single coverage anywhere on the court, they were running the closest defender at him to make him give it up. So when you give it up, that first guy most likely out of a trap is not going to have the shot. Like, that guy's got to now go make a play. He'll end up getting the assist if there is one to be had. And if the ball did come back to Kyrie Irving on those possessions, now you're deep into the clock. So he's obviously just going to go hunt a shot. So I think Golden State's defense had something to do with that anomaly of a 0 in the assist column. I don't think that anybody cared for the Dallas Mavericks. None of the fans. Didn't matter, because when three-point shooting was incredible, but it was also, he had 2 or 3 of those just, patented Kyrie finishes where he jumps and then jumps in the air and manipulates the ball all over the place and gets it up on the other side of glass with English, and you're like, how in the world did he get that ball to go in? So he had some of that, provided all of the entertainment. But I agree with you. Look, Kyrie, think about his arc of his career. early, draft him, bad team, they're going to be the star of the Cleveland Cavaliers, like as the lead guy. Oh, wait a second. We got LeBron coming in. We're going to try to win a championship. So now you're going to go ride shotgun with LeBron for a little bit and be in that second lane. Good lane for him.
Yeah.
Then he leaves there, goes to Boston. Okay, you're the top guy again. Got these young forwards. We need you to lead them and be, and he's like, I'm really kind of like just to go ball. You got to lead guys. That's hard. Gets out of there, goes to Brooklyn, back in that lane again. You got KD, you got Harden, like, okay. And then, of course, ends up in this situation. This is now, again, the first time since Boston look, and AD is a different kind of player, but he's kind of back in that role again.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see. You're right. For him to navigate that going forward. I don't know, did he get to 40 minutes last night? Because if he did, that's his 5th straight game over 40 minutes. So I mean they've been wearing him out. He's been playing the whole 4th quarter every night. AD is going to help a lot in that regard, but that will be interesting to see how Kyrie at this stage of his career, probably more mature, a little wiser, like will better leader, will handle this a little bit better this time around as the focal point as far as the guy on the ball. AD is going to have a lot of stuff run through him, but Kyrie has the ball. It's his show. He's going to be the guy that's really going to set the tempo for them. And he hasn't really been in that position since he was in Boston, where all of this falls on his plate.
Well, 42 points and 40 minutes. This is the fear about Anthony Davis being out is they're not in position to be able to coast through the tape. They're going to have to sprint because they're in a battle right now to get out of the play-in and into the playoffs, or just to hold your position. So he's going to have to play a lot of these minutes by the time Anthony Davis comes back. And again, that's tough to put on a guard his size and his age. But Max Christie, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. I know that you really like what you're seeing from him. What is it about his game that you think is so promising?
He's got incredible amount of confidence. He had a play that really mattered, middle of the 4th quarter, where he got ISO'd against Jimmy Butler, like at the 3-point line, and he just jabbed, stepped him, went left, 2 dribbles, pull up, mid-range, 18-footer, like Jimmy Butler draped all over him, and it was like he did it like it was absolutely nothing, like he totally expected to do that. His 3-point shooting has really emerged. He didn't get that many opportunities with the Lakers, but you look at the opportunities he's getting now. He's playing 25, 30 minutes a night. He was on fire from the 360, I think 63% or something. He was shooting from the 3 coming into the game since he got to Dallas with a high volume. So I didn't know he could shoot it that relaxed, that comfortably at that percentage. He's wiry, strong. So he's going to be a good defender. He's a conscientious defender. He just has a very stoic look on his face. Like I just like guys that you can see it's all business to him. And he hasn't been fazed by all this that has happened. In some ways, maybe he's actually embraced it because it's a better opportunity for him for playing time, for importance. I think he's got a bigger profile here than he would have had in LA.
If we go to the other side, Jimmy Butler's obviously still trying to figure out where he belongs. The Warriors, what their new team looks like. What did you see from them, and what's kind of your early read on what's going to be the challenges for them?
One thing that jumped out was how good a shape Jimmy Butler's in. I mean, you think about what he's been through the last month. He's barely played. I mean, he's kept getting suspended. He's come back, play, suspension. So he hasn't played a lot. And I was like, didn't know if I'd be able to see that. Steve Kerr did a pretty good job of staggering him and Curry. For the most part, they started the game. They started the 3rd, but then they come out early, and then they go back and forth for each other a little bit. And then, of course, they finish the half and the end of the game. So he's in great shape. He was flying all over the court. It was interesting that he wasn't getting to the line and gobbling up the free throws the way he had been his first 2 games. He had 28 free throw attempts his first 2 games. And they kept him pretty much in check in that regard without putting him at the line. So I didn't get to see him. Like, that part of his game is so important to what they're going to do. Defensively, it rests Curry, all those trips to the free throw line. He's fresher. He didn't do that, but I did say, this is an interesting thing they have now. They haven't had this since Durant, which is a mid-range player that they can give the ball to in an ISO if you want a big bucket and let him just go. And he's a very good passer, a very underrated passer.
Yeah.
He draws a lot of attention on his drives, man, when he ISOs, and he will get the ball out. And if you make mistakes against the Warriors, like, that's going to lead to something good. So I just think overall he's going to fit well with their offense. And he made one mistake last night. He had the biggest play of the game. I mean, he drives late. Kyrie steps in to take that charge. It was either an and one or it's a charge. So it was a big play. They went to the review, and I looked at me on film. Yes, Kyrie squared him up, did a great job anticipating it. But he kind of was coming from the top of the key down the lane, and he had the right hand. If he just kept going, Kyrie Irving was coming from his left side. Kyrie Irving would have been right there on his left shoulder. He would have gone right through him to the rim. Instead, for some reason, he did like a Euro step where he took it back across his body to the left. And that's exactly where Kyrie Irving was coming from. And so he just stopped. And then Jimmy Butler ran him over. So I think if he had that play over again, it's probably a different outcome to the game, because I think he gets to the rim, whether it's a layup or an and one, they take the lead. And, hey, they get a stop, they win the game. So big momentum play in the game, obviously. But all things considered, everybody, I talked to a lot of people around the team, Kerr especially, thrilled with what they've seen out of him, thrilled with what he's going to bring to their team, toughness and edge, two-way player, great instincts, and he's a very good passer. So he fits in very well with the way that they want to play, with quick reads and reactions off of all their splits and screens and guys running around. Jimmy Butler can make those reads. So it's gonna work out well. It didn't last night because Kyrie was just too good, and Golden State had that play at the end of the game that could have gone either way, went against them.
For Golden State, I'm curious how much, obviously 3-point shooting is a huge part of any team that has Steph Curry, a huge part of their identity, but nobody shot the ball well last night for them other than Gary Payton, who goes 2 of 3, which you don't really expect, but you get 2 of 8 from Moses Moody, 1 of 6 from Buddy Hield, 4 of 13 from Steph. Are they going to win? Can they win games without making threes? I guess is my question.
No, I don't think. I think they're going to have a really difficult time doing that. And look, I think, they're going to be playing these smaller lineups. I think more. It's just going to be tough if you're not making shots, because now they were great on the offensive glass last night. So of the two teams that both went small, Golden State was much more physical on the glass, and its offensive rebound kept them in the game to a large extent. Look, they're still going to throw Looney out there sometimes. And Draymond is used to playing like the 5, but he's only 6'6", 6'7". He plays center a lot throughout his career. Trace Jackson Davis, every now and then they'll sprinkle those guys in, a Quentin Post, but they're going to play small too. But yeah, the 3-point shooting, critical for them. And a couple things about some of those guys, like Buddy Hield, interesting number on him. Think about this. Buddy Hield had 6 games of 20 or more points in his first 7 games to start the season.
Yeah, he was on fire.
He's had one since.
Man.
One. The rest of the year, and he looked bad last night. And a couple times, it was weird because it wasn't on shooting stuff. It was cuts. He made 2 cuts, and it ended up being a turnover by Steph, and another one where the ball got deflected. So they got the ball back and went out of bounds. But on one of them, Steph was really vocally like chewing him out about something with that cut. And then 2 minutes later, Draymond tried to hit him on a cut, and Draymond went over, and he was chewing him out. And so I think they're just frustrated with how he's playing, and he was brutal last night because defensively he's going to get torched, and he has a night where he doesn't contribute anything offensively. So they're in a bad spot with him right now, the way he's playing. And by the way, he's going to go into All-Star weekend and do the 3-point shootout at the worst time possible, the way he feels right now. So we'll see how that
Maybe
goes.
Maybe he'll get him back, though. Maybe he gets him back.
The other thing is I wanted to mention Curry. We were talking a lot about Curry, 4 straight 30-point games coming into the game. But the truth is, he's only shooting 41% in those games. He's taking 26 shots a night over the previous 4 games. So he's getting to his number, but it has not been efficient. And he did it again last night. Struggled. And look, I credited, I thought Dallas was really up in him, and they really pressured him, and they contested everything. He got that one stretch. It was important in the fourth quarter. He got loose. And he basically erased that lead. They were down double digits. He erased that lead pretty much by himself. But that was about it as far as a burst out of him. So despite the fact he's putting up good numbers, he has not been playing efficiently. So maybe that's where Jimmy Butler can help the more they play together. It's only 3 games. So it'll get better, I think, as time goes. And I think Jimmy Butler will help Steph be more efficient the more attention he gets as he starts to feel more comfortable.
Well, I know you got to get out of here in about 4 minutes, so we got to go to our final segment here, which is our weekend slate. And this weekend, it's All-Star Weekend. But this segment is sponsored by the FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. And what do we have? All-Star Weekend, Celebrity Game, Rising Star Game on Friday, Skills Challenge, 3-point contest, Slam Dunk on Saturday. And then Sunday, it's just the all-star bracket. There's 4 all-star teams this year. Do we have that, James, that you could pull up the 4 different teams and the brackets that they're in? So here it is right here. You got to squint to see it, but we have Chuck's team, which features Shea. Yeah, it was the international team. I don't know if you saw this. Chuck went all international. Shea, Jokic, Şengün, Siakam, Cat, Wemby, to go with Trae Young and Donovan Mitchell, which I think is kind of interesting. And they'll take on Kenny's young stars, who are Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Darius Garland, Tyler Hero, Jaren Jackson Jr., Evan Mobley, and Jalen Williams. So I kind of like this, that guys went thematic, thematic here. The global stars or the young stars? What do you like there?
Man, I'm looking at that right now. I don't like the Global Stars team. I don't.
It's a fun team, but not an all-star team.
Imagine if you put Karl Anthony Towns out there with Jokic and Şengün. I mean, imagine those guys trying to change ends of the floor. That would be hilarious to watch. So look, unless Shea just puts the whole thing on his back, because first of all, that Jokic doesn't want to be there. So let's start with that. All right, they're probably gonna have to go. They're going to have to go wake him up just to come to the arena. Like, he doesn't want to even be there, man. I think I kind of like that Kenny's Young Stars team.
Yeah, I think so, too. For an all-star game, you got athleticism. You got guys that are going to be excited to be there.
Some younger guys that are going to be kind of amped up probably to show what they have. There's a lot of young dudes on that team, man, that are going to want to go out there and show what they are. Some of those other teams have some of the older vets that probably doesn't mean quite as much to anymore.
What's weird about this is then you have Shaq's OG. So this is all the older stars that, are in the league. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, LeBron James, James Harden. And they go up against the Rising Stars champion. I don't mind this format of trying to break it up, but breaking it up into 3 teams and then having the Rising Stars participate is weird. What if they win?
I know. Well, I think that's the thinking. They're thinking this is how you get guys to play harder. You don't want that. You don't want the embarrassment of that. So that was the whole point of this. Let's see if it matters, man. I'm not sure that it will. Real quick though, Friday the events on Friday, the celebrity game. I coached in that one year. Here's some of the people on my team. I had LaDainian Tomlinson. I told him, and this is when he was at his peak, a running back in the NFL. I said, "Hey, just don't tear your ACL on my watch. That's all I want. I'll get criticized for it." I had Carrot Top on my team. I went to put him in the game. I said, "Carrot Top, you're in." And he looked up at me and said, "Are you serious?" And so that tells you the extent to which Carrot Top wanted any part of that. And then I said, "Yeah, man, isn't that why you wanted to play?" He said, "Okay, but don't leave me out there too long." I had David Arquette on my team. I had Nelly on my team, who I think cursed me. He cursed me under his breath because the year before he was the MVP of the game. And I left him in as long as I could, but he was 1 for 10. I finally took him out, and I'm pretty sure he dropped an F-bomb on me as he was walking by me to go to the bench. The late, great Michael Clark Duncan, the actor from Green Mile, was on my team. Told me his name was Duncan on the back of his jersey for a reason, comparing himself to Tim Duncan. So the first play of the game, we threw it into him on the left block. He caught the ball. He was so deep toward the baseline. He turned toward the baseline to shoot it, and he was so far behind the backboard, he shot the ball off of the metal bar behind the backboard. That was our first possession of the game. Like so those are just some of my – Bobby Flay was on my team too, the chef, who told me he led the restaurant league in scoring. And so he thought that I should know that because he really wanted to do well. I think he was 0 for 7 in the game. And then I ran into Bobby Flay twice that weekend, and he profusely apologized to me for letting me down by going 0 for 7. That's some of my celebrity game coaching stories.
People don't know the pressure and the ego management that goes into the celebrity game coaching. Now they know it behind the scenes. We know you got to comment on the 3-point contest real quick. Bring those up, those participants up. Do we have them real quick? What do we got, Legs? That's the tournament one. There we go. So these are the guys: Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Darius Garland, Tyler Hero, Buddy Hield, Cam Johnson, Damian Lillard, Norman Powell. Who's your pick here?
I mean, typically anytime I see Damian Lillard's name on it, I pick him because he's got the perfect stroke for this competition. It's very short and compact. He does not jump very much. That's kind of what you need. I think Tyler Hero probably jumps too much. That's going to be tough. Jalen Brunson's release is too slow. I don't expect him to do well. Buddy Hield, like I said, mentally, I don't even know where he's at right now, the way he's playing. Cade Cunningham is in the All-Star game. So that would be kind of cool if he could pull that off. Cam Johnson's got a beautiful stroke, but again, a bigger guy. It's a little bit longer to get the ball off the rack and get it up to the release point. So I think I'm looking at this. I'm looking at a guy like Lillard, and I'm looking at a guy like Norman Powell. I think those are the two guys I could see winning it.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to go with Cam Johnson. I'm going to take him as the dark horse here. And then lastly, I don't even know if you care, slam dunk competition. Do we have that one, James? Who are these guys? All right, we got Matas Buzelis, my guy. I like Andre Jackson. Okay, Stephen Castle. And then, of course, Mac McClung is back. I can't believe they keep bringing this guy back. I'm a hater.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like they keep doing it because the truth is nobody is going to have the stuff that he's got. So it's almost like you're inviting him back. It's almost guaranteed. Unless out of this group, the only guy I could see would be Buzelis. Buzelis is a guy that he's got these really lively legs. And if you go look at YouTube and pull up clips of him, he's the kind of guy that when he first started dunking, probably at the age of like 14, every day after practice, the rest of his life would stick around for 45 minutes just dunking. So he probably has some stuff in his package. But for me, Mac McClung, some of the stuff that I've seen, if he just did the exact same dunks he's done before, I don't see how he can lose.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned there. People don't know I'm 6'6", so I back in my days I could obviously dunk. And I remember those days when you would spend like 4 hours just dunking over and over and over again, just wear your legs out. Legs, you got to get to the airport, get home, have a great weekend. And everybody, we appreciate you guys following along. We got the All-Star break coming up. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, giving you some great stuff as the NBA gets to the home stretch. This is when the league gets good. Post All-Star break, the storylines really start to emerge and the best teams start to emerge. So the show should be phenomenal from here all the way to the finals, and I can't wait for it. Everybody enjoy your break. Hit that like button for us on the way out, and we'll see you next week.
All silly like the mayor.